Good afternoon. First, I want to thank you for being here, and I want to start with a story about my mother. See, she is not only the person who has helped me grow into who I am today, but she's also the reason I got into Duke. Now, that's not because I'm a legacy student. It's far from that. I'm actually the first in my family to attend college, but she's the reason I'm here because my college essays were about her. See, my mother is an immigrant. My sister is an immigrant. My father is an immigrant. The majority of my extended family are immigrants, and I am an undocumented immigrant. See, there are some in my family who are undocumented, but there are others who are U.S. citizens as well, like my youngest sister. Now, the story of my mother specifically starts in Honduras. She was born in a poor family, and from the age of 6 started working early in the morning selling tortillas, and then going to school with a cold piece of bread and half a cup of watered-down coffee for breakfast. See, despite these hardships, she was still a hardworking student. She tells me that she would not only get the Student of the Month award, but of the day, week, month, and year. She's probably better than me. Now, at the age of 27, she took the decision to make the journey to the United States. I was 7. My youngest sister was 3 years old. It was an 18-day journey that brought us to the United States. And after 2 weeks of getting there to New York City, she had started working at a second shift job at a nearby mom-and-pop store. Now, her story is one of resilience and power, but it's also one of hiding and silence. Her story and my story make up the fabric of who immigrants in this country are, but we are silenced by the lack of protections, by the lack of rights. What I wish to share with you is the importance of finding your voice, of sharing that story, to shape the narratives that not only influence how you connect with people, but also how that applies to policy. See, growing up, I knew I was undocumented. I was 7 when I came here. And it was something that I always had in mind, and something that always influenced our lives. And I saw how it influenced others' lives. I knew growing up that, coming to the U.S. had been basically a one-way trip. In 3rd grade, my sister and I had missed the bus. In what was a small stretch from where we lived, my stepfather decided he would drive us before going to work. And in that moment, as we were pulling up to the stoplight, we saw the flashing lights of a police car behind us. With fear in his eyes, he did what he needed to do, and he pulled over into the school parking lot. In that moment, my sister and I, being 3rd graders and her barely starting elementary school, got off and headed to class. We were unaware that for the next 3 months, we wouldn't see him. We were unaware of that impact that it would have on our family's future. Now, the reason why my stepfather was arrested in that moment was because he was a Mexican undocumented immigrant. It was because the state of North Carolina had banned individuals from getting a license. And after 3 months of being in detention, which is basically just another word for jail, he was anxious of when he could be sent away. Luckily, his story didn't end there, and we still have him. But his story is like that of many other immigrants in this country who, instead of seeing to serve and protect on a police car, what they see is the fragility of their stay in this country, which could end at any point with a mere traffic stop. See, growing up with these realities, I noticed that I really focused on what my parents had taught me. They were in the backdrop, and mostly I just worked hard and did well in school as they had taught me and exemplified. But really, it was something that influenced my whole life growing up. See, when I went to Riverside High School, and my sophomore year then, I stepped into one of my teacher's classroom. His name was Mr. Ramos, and he asked something of me. He said, "I want you to get involved. I want you to become a leader." And I took those words, and they stayed with me until now. See, the truth was that when I came back that after that summer, we had seen so many more immigrants and Latino students in our school. And what had happened was that we had a wave of unaccompanied minors in the summer of 2014 who had arrived at Riverside, who were staying with family in Durham. I decided to take action and took his advice, and we built Destino Success, which was a club and organization where we started doing some community organizing, where we did tutoring, where we did soccer tournaments, festivales de comida, and where most of all, we advocated for these unaccompanied minors. Destino Success continues to thrive, and it started at that point. Now, when I was growing up with this, it was something that I was just seeing and reacting to it. But when it came to senior year of high school, it started hitting home. In my senior year, our community seemed to be thriving. We even had a newspaper that had Spanish and English translations for all our community. And at that point, one of the students, Wilden Acosta, who was an unaccompanied minor, was on track to graduate with me, as many others. But in January of that year, of my senior year, ICE enforcement and deportations started coming to North Carolina and coming to Durham. Attendance dropped. Local immigrant-owned businesses struggled as they saw their clientele decrease and their workers not coming in. And people feared leaving their homes. People feared going to work, going to school. And then January 28th of 2016 happened, and Wilden Acosta, the student I had met through Destino Success, was taken from his home before coming to school. It was not the first nor the last time that someone in our community was impacted by immigration enforcement and family separation. He was taken in front of his home as his family watched from the window in terror as ICE officers in plain clothes cuffed their son and took him away. But we didn't stay silent. See, our community took action. Fellow friends of mine and seniors took to social media with hashtag #FreeWilden, hashtag education not deportation. And together, a community came together to form coalitions, to petition Congress members, to find legal avenues to stop his deportation. Many of us, like me, had DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, and we felt protected. But Wilden had no protection. Despite his case for asylum, he had been taken away. Our fight for Wilden was not based on legality. It was based on how his stories connected with our stories. The only thing that had separated him from me was our date of entry into this country. In this, we learned that in any space we were, with any question that we were asked, that the most important thing, our most important asset, was our voice, and that no one could take the power away from us in telling our stories. See, this truly transformed me coming to college. It was what shaped my views, and it was the greatest tool that I came here with. And on September 5th, 2017, when the Trump administration decided to rescind DACA, we mobilized. As I was heading to the Durham Bull statue for a rally that day, I remembered that this was something we were expecting. Since the election November 2016, it was something that seemed to have been looming over us as a threat, and that it was only a matter of time. At that point, I also realized the irony of the place I was going to. It was the same location where we had advocated for Wilden, and now we're going there to defend our worth, to defend our humanity. See, Wilden was there that day. It had taken almost 6 months of people fighting for his release, but he was there and continues to fight for his court case. Now, as I stood there that day, I realized that it was my duty to lift my voice, to become an advocate. In that moment, someone mentioned, "What do we have to lose?" And that resonated with me. In that moment, our voices and those standing there in solidarity was what took life. And soon after that, even many came out as undocumented publicly for the first time ever. We established the Duke Define American chapter in order to organize and support each other. From there, we took to DC. We had an awareness week. We lobbied for Dreamers, a solution to Dreamers. And soon after, we held our first Define American Chapter Summit. In this, We fought to take back control of our futures and our voices. In this, we fought to combat those narratives that were being constructed about us, about our families, about our worth. See, in all of this experience, I've learned a lot about leadership. I've learned that it's something that sometimes starts in the dark, before anyone is watching, before anyone's acting, and before anyone acts. It is something that in community organizing, you are able to take control of your movement. You're able to lead in a manner where you have ownership of your voice and what you're doing. And it is your voice that has the power to change. It is your voice that can give you that agency to build power, to build solidarity amongst others. This fight didn't stop with me. It didn't stop with Wilden. It continues today. As many people are deported and families are separated in North Carolina right now, there are new voices emerging. There are new people stepping up. And it is everyday sons, daughters, friends, neighbors who take a stand to defend their communities. It is in places like Sanford, Charlotte, Durham, North Carolina, and across the country that people come and bring change by standing up and raising their voice. Now, for us immigrants, there's a question of how do we create change? And some of that change starts by creating a culture that does no longer tolerates the separation of families, the incarceration of children, by creating a culture where us as a community can contextualize issues through human lenses and real stories. Because I've learned you will not only probably be speaking for yourself, but we will be speaking for many others who have been kept silent for far too long. In this, we cannot do it alone. We have to move together. We have to grow together. We have to fight together, and we fight for each other. Our stories and our narratives that we shape can change whether we see caravans or refugees, whether we see criminals or a working parent, or whether you see an illegal alien or a college student. See, I invite you to engage in any small act of resistance. I dare you to challenge power and authority. I dare you to come and join others when you see injustices in solidarity. See, individuals and stories like my parents in Wilden's show that we are resilient as individuals, but it also shows that there are power in our communities when we come together. Now, one thing that I can ask of you is to start that in your communities, to start that in yourself. And it begins with asking a question, with asking, how do you define American? And why are some of us less deserving to be American? Thank you.